All right. Hello to Feminist Futures. Today is April 8th. Let's see if I can get this set up here. 1 second. Just get my windows rearranged. Okay. All right. I think we are good to go. Okay. Yes. So today is Wednesday, Hump Day, April 8th. We got a couple bits of big news that we'll talk about today. So let's just kind of go through it here. Oh, actually, first the theme for today is the American empire is collapsing, and we will we'll talk more about this as we go through the headlines. But this hegemony that the U.S. basically adopted from Britain, at the end of World War II. We're finally seeing, it's been a slow process, but I think we're finally seeing it dim a little bit, at least. The U.S. isn't quite so powerful on the international stage as it used to be, which is good in terms of fighting colonialism and empire and imperialism abroad. But one of the issues is that this collapsing of empire leads to, and we've seen Trump do this, right, on both fronts. This collapse of empire abroad brought home is essentially what fascism is. So big historical moment. This is going to continue. This is why we got to, organize solidarity, so we can start building those structures now, that we can put in place those socialist structures, and more equitable structures and organizations and communities, because we're kind of in the thick of it right now, so to speak. Okay, let's go on to news. While we keep the theme in mind, let's go on to the news. Science and tech stuff. Apparently, there was a study done in the UK that pointed to people with particular variations in 2 different genes related to appetite and digestion respond the best to these weight loss drugs. So again, drugs and medicines can only take you so far, right? Your biology is a big thing. Your environment is a big thing. So that was interesting. Again, this was only one study. So many more studies, I'm sure, to come on this issue. Okay. Now it's reported by the BBC. From Reuters, Meta releases their first AI model. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Also from Reuters and a couple different sources, GM recalls 270,000. I believe there were Chevy Malibus, if I remember right, in the U.S. because they're having some rear view camera issues. So, yeah, that's wonderful. If you have a Chevy Malibu, check that out. They may be recalled, and you may have to take it in to the dealer. Okay. Another interesting one, Hawaii. Researchers in Hawaii are experimenting with making roads out of recycled plastic. Fishing nets, other type of recycled plastic. So that's pretty cool. Anytime we can find new ways to recycle our trash and reuse it, reduce, reuse, recycle, the 3 R's, is always good. So that's kind of exciting news. Hopefully they can come up with something. So yeah, that's pretty cool and positive. This company in California called Grid Aero is built, and I'm sure they're not the only company, but they're building autonomous cargo planes. So I was watching a video. They're not like full-size cargo planes. They look more like those military drones you see, like the big ones, but only they're like thicker because they have the storage compartment attached to them. So that's kind of interesting. It's currently, it sounds like, more or less in the R&D phase. More and more we're going to see autonomous vehicles of all types being used, which can be a game changer for a lot of things, right? We already see this. AI and robotics and whatnot are greatly changing economics, supply chains, working places. And while all this technology is really cool, we have to ever be mindful and organizing around workers' rights, because more and more we're seeing companies slashing jobs, cutting worker pay, doing all that, all in the name of AI and autonomous assembly lines or whatever. So technology is great, but it needs to be paired with hand in hand with labor protections, labor strength. And the only way we're going to get that, are through unions, joining unions, doing co-ops, all that stuff that we continually harp on, that we need to keep in the game, keep in the streets, keep organizing. And actually, we'll talk about one or two strikes that have happened recently. Okay. According to satellite images, and this was from Reuters, according to satellite images, Earth is getting brighter at night. So more lights are going up, stronger lights are going up. Not surprising, but just one more effect of humans on the planet and how we're, wrecking the planet in many ways. So yeah, this was an interesting one. This was also reported by Reuters. So there's a certain species of sealer fish in the Democratic Republic of Congo that climbed this 50-foot waterfall. I watched a video, very, very fascinating. They're the only one of only a few creatures, right? A few fish that are actually able to defy gravity and climb up these waterfalls through they do it through a combination of their fins, and I guess they have some hooking parts. And it's just really cool to see. And reminds us that our planet, our environment is complex and wonderful, and we got to protect it. Especially DR Congo is being literally raided by multinational mining companies, by just extractivism to its worst. And who knows how long these fish will be here. But again, we need to be conscious of where our goods come from. All our smartphones, all of this technology is creating new markets for new minerals having to be mined, like silicone, cobalt, stuff like that. And this is like the new oil, right? So as we transition away from fossil fuels, now mines are being turned into mining different things like cobalt, zirconium, these other kind of rare earth metals that are used in our technology. Which is another thing too, okay, so renewable energy and green technology is great, but all of that is requires these same minerals. So, phones and especially like electric vehicles and stuff require a lot of this cobalt and special minerals to build these batteries and these electrical systems. And as this proliferates, the more we're going to see mining, the more exploitation of black and brown bodies, poor bodies around the world. And and we celebrate, right? Like we're kind of celebrating the collapse of U.S. empire in a way, but like colonialism isn't just an America thing. Like many European countries still do it. We now see China doing it. Oftentimes Chinese companies control a lot of these mining companies in the Democratic Republic of Congo and other countries in Africa. So, gotta stay vigilant. Also, there was a new species of spider captured on camera. I think this was also on Reuters, so that's pretty cool. We have another species of spider. Okay, entertainment news. Jacob Elordi, who played Frankenstein in the new Frankenstein movie, he got an Oscar nomination. Was basically saying he was on the Graham Norton show the other day. So Graham Norton show is like a big time show in Britain where Graham Norton, the host, interviews different celebrities, stuff like that. Jacob Elordi was saying that basically because of the criticism and insults he was getting from fans and whatnot on his role in the movie Kissing Booth, which I actually watched, funny enough. It's been a while. I mean, it's a pretty like cheesy, really, cheesy, like rom-com type movie. The movie itself was, kind of bad. It was, I don't know, like kind of one of those slapstick, low budget movies from what I remember. But anyway, he was in that. And basically the criticism he was getting, he says inspired him to play Frankenstein in this new Frankenstein movie and win an Oscar nomination. So, use inspiration and energy wherever you can get it. So like, good for him. Channel the haters, right? Channel their energy into something productive to help society, to be creative, all that good stuff. Apparently, according to the AP, Malcolm in the Middle is getting a reboot. So that should be interesting. Not sure how I feel about that. Malcolm in the Middle. This just shows how old I am. Was like middle school. It was kind of big when I was like in middle school, high school. To be very honest, I only watched a couple episodes. It was kind of funny. But anyway, they're rebooting that, so we'll see what happens. And then one more podcasts we don't need. RFK Jr. is launching a new podcast, something about, I don't even know, probably something about how vaccines give your kids autism or some stupid shit like that. But yeah, he's launching a new podcast. Woo. Okay, let's move to sport. The Doha Diamond League, which is a big like track and field event every year in Qatar, that has been canceled, or not canceled. Sorry, it has been postponed because there's a fucking war in the Middle East happening. So once again, another major sporting event postponed or canceled due to this fucking ridiculous war in Iran and in the Middle East. That was according to Reuters. Italia Serie A, their professional soccer league in Italy, is seeking funding for, again, from private equity, like no surprise. But anyway, seeking funding to get into overseas media markets. So the professional league in Spain and the professional soccer league in in the UK are already doing overseas stuff. Like actually, I've been watching Premier League, which is the UK professional soccer league, for many seasons now. A lot of their games are broadcast on NBC Sports. The Spanish league, Liga A, is I think usually broadcast on Fox, one of the Fox affiliates. I don't watch so much of that. I'm more into I don't know. There's something about the Premier League that I like compared to like the other European leagues. I don't know. It's more physical or something. I like their style of play better. But occasionally, if it's on, I'll watch Spanish league or now maybe Italian league. So so we'll see what happens with that. Italia Serie A may be coming to a TV near you soon, or a computer. So that was kind of cool. So the U.S. has put together a sailing team, which is entering into the America's Cup, which is a sailing race. I think it's off the coast of Naples, Italy, if I remember right. U.S. sailing, I guess, has kind of been struggling, but they put together a team. So that's kind of cool. Wish them luck. All right. So let's get into the political and legal stuff here. So world news. Of course, the big news today, the Iran-U.S. 2-week ceasefire. Again, this is not a peace deal. This is just U.S. and Iran saying they're going to stop. Basically, Donald Trump saying he's going to stop bombing Iran for 2 weeks. Of course, this is very tentative already, both sides. Oh, and also Israel's part of this too, of course. Both sides are already saying like, oh, the principles of this deal are being violated. Again, there's no real like agreed upon principles. So again, just anything traditional Trump, like he's just like, there's a ceasefire. And then, reporters and stuff are asking him, like, what are the conditions? What are the limits? And he's just like, I don't know. We'll see. So, just ridiculous. But at least there's a ceasefire. We'll see how long it lasts. We'll see if it leads to actual peace. I don't know. Some peace deal of some sort. Who knows? At least, Trump backed down. This is, in my book, it's very hard to like tell who the winners and losers are, right? Because it's just kind of like a ceasefire, but Iran, U.S. and Israel all have their different conditions and like quote unquote red lines. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it is kind of I will say, and interpret it how you want, but like I will say it does seem like a win for Iran and a win against U.S. empire in showing that the U.S. doesn't have a monopoly on international relations anymore, it seems. I mean, we already know this, right? Like how every time Trump tries to do something overseas, how he's condemned, how most like a lot of countries say, no, we're not going to participate in this. And this particular ceasefire is based on the Strait of Hormuz, right? Where most of the oil and stuff comes out. So I guess the very rough outline of the ceasefire is that Iran hasn't agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz if the U.S. stops all immediate like bombing and troop deployments and stuff in Iran. So we'll see there, and we'll get into this a little bit later. But there's a lot of huge caveats to this. But at least for now, we have a ceasefire, so at least a little bit of relief for the Iranian people. The BBC did report that in response to Trump's absolutely unhinged, Truth Social post yesterday about wiping out a whole civilization, as if we didn't already know Trump's a fucking wacko that God, we should all be concerned every day that he has access to nuclear weapons, honestly. But in response to that completely deranged, just unacceptable, just Hitler level, posts that Trump did, Iranian citizens came together. The government encouraged them to form human chains around the bridges and power plants because the whole idea was supposed to be that if, Iran doesn't negotiate, we bomb the bridges, we bomb the power plants. Again, just complete, Trump trying to wipe his ass with any type of international law or whatever. He doesn't give a fuck about any human life, honestly. And this is just another example of it. So Iran, the brave people in Iran said, okay, we're going to form human chains around these, these civilian power plants and bridges and stuff. So if Trump does do this, he's going to have a lot of blood on his hands. It actually a very strong peace technique. We've seen this in Vietnam. We've seen this in other places. A very strong nonviolent resistance move here by the Iranian people. Okay, there's some kind of backstory here that I saw was interesting. So a lot of Trump's Middle East stuff, people are like, where the hell is he coming up with these policies and stuff? Another person behind it, and this doesn't surprise me at all, but Jared Kushner, husband of Ivanka Trump, him and Wyckoff were negotiating this peace with Iran before Trump, couldn't take it anymore, and whiny baby had to bomb Iran. So Jared Kushner, and Kushner was very involved with Trump's first term, also his second term. In the meantime, when Biden was president, Jared Kushner used those connections to basically start essentially a hedge fund that funds defensive, that basically funds bomb making, military making. So he was sorry, let's go back one more step. So Kushner, when he was a kid, I guess Benjamin Netanyahu, whenever he visited the U.S., would stay with Kushner's family. So Kushner and Netanyahu have a very close relationship already. It was only strengthened with Trump in the White House. Also, when Trump 1.0 was happening, Kushner was very involved with Middle East politics, obviously because of Netanyahu and stuff. But anyway, Kushner built a very strong relationship, not just with Netanyahu, but with the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. Trump lost to Biden. Kushner immediately used those connections he had made in political office to profit off of them because, we know how the Trump administration and anybody in Trump world operates. It's not about the U.S. people. It's not about Americans. It's not about our well-being. It's about, how Trump can exploit more people, how he can profit off of more people. And everyone in his orbit is the exact same. And we see it again and again, So anyway, Kushner became very good friends with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who gave him something like $2 billion to start this defense-oriented hedge fund. And was trying to build this Saudi-Israel pipeline. So basically trying to push Saudi Arabia to partner with Israel to become more of a ally to Israel, which we kind of did see. This is exactly what the Abraham Accords were supposed to do before October 7th. So anyway, this was not surprising. So there's a lot of good work. This was done by More Perfect Union, kind of an investigative YouTube channel that was doing this, looked into this. Not, again, like a lot of this didn't surprise me too much. But yeah, it's all about Trump. It's all about making money. It's all about, aggrandizing him. It's not about helping people. It's not about saving Americans. No, it's all about him. In Trump's mind, Trump and America are the same, and fuck anyone else who thinks that, that thinks this is their country, honestly. Anyway, so also the other thing, very obvious. So there's a lot of going back and forth talking about like the conditions of the ceasefire. Apparently there was Iran thought Israel was going to stop bombing in Lebanon. Of course, it's Israel. They don't give a fuck. They're going to continue bombing whoever the fuck they want because they're a genocidal nation that wants to literally create greater Israel, which is like basically, mind you, European Jews essentially and American Jews that have moved over to Europe. They want to control the whole Middle East. It's a colonial. It's a settler nation, as we say. It's Europeans again colonizing more black and brown people. But anyway, so Israel's blatant actions are actually threatening to upend this ceasefire. Again, Trump's not going to do shit about it. He never does shit about Israel other than sending them more arms, other than like praising Netanyahu and turning a blind eye to all the violence and genocide, and honestly, the Holocaust that Israel is carrying out in the Middle East right now. So that was according to Reuters, and there were other places that were saying, Israel isn't faced by this at all and is still bombing the fuck out of Lebanon and Gaza and everywhere else. So we'll see. Like I said, it's a very tentative ceasefire, so we'll see how this progresses. I thought this was interesting. So the Financial Times reported that apparently Iran, their Revolutionary Guard, is demanding crypto payments for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. So again, just another example of like, yeah, okay, the strait is like now open again, but it's still heavily like controlled by Iran. It's still very precarious. It's still, very, very extremely dangerous part of the world, despite this ceasefire. So, again, like I was saying, there's a lot of caveats to all of this. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how it develops. Another one, actually both Reuters and Financial Times reported that apparently minutes before the ceasefire deal was announced, Iran had hit the big Saudi East-West pipeline, oil pipeline. I talked about this a few episodes ago, that the East-West pipeline is like the biggest oil pipeline out of the Middle East. So like a lot of oil from the Middle East and the Gulf states comes out of the Strait of Hormuz, right? Another chunk comes out of pipelines, around the Middle East. The biggest of those pipelines being the East-West pipeline out of Saudi Arabia. So apparently minutes before this ceasefire deal was announced, some Iranian drones, I guess, had hit this pipeline. So, that's great. Again, it's, war's war. Everything is going to be destroyed. It's throwing everything into chaos, no matter if you're in the Middle East or not. So we'll see. Again, we'll see how this plays out. Nigeria is doing kind of a historic court trial where they're trying 500 members of Boko Haram, the basically the ISIS-affiliated Islamic terrorist group throughout much of Africa. So they have 500 members of Boko Haram on trial in Nigeria now for, of course, various war crimes, human rights violations, everything else. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens here. I doubt this is going to, it may temporarily stop Boko Haram. A lot of it, Boko Haram and a lot of these groups, again, just like the KKK for Christians or honestly, Zionists with Judaism and whatnot. It's all supremacist ideology. It's hard to fight an ideology. We know this because of 9/11, stuff like this. So, but I mean, we'll see. I guess there is an element of like, maybe some justice will come of this, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, that was reported by the BBC. Also by the BBC, Greece is set to ban anyone under the age of 15 from accessing social media. That's starting next year. Greece will join France and Spain in doing that. This was according to the BBC. Again, literally your internet rights are being taken away. Instead of actually like, having social media and internet literacy and teaching kids how to properly use this. No, we just ban it because, us old people are so afraid of it. Again, this is not the way to fix the internet. This is not the way to protect free speech. We have to fight against these bans wherever they happen. Listen to people. Again, I harp on this all the time. People like Taylor Lorenz are great on this. The Electronic Frontier Fund is a wonderful group that's doing this work, that's doing this advocacy against these asinine and counterproductive laws and bills, and are actually advocating for actual things that would protect us online, such as breaking up big tech companies' antitrust, such as promoting internet and social media literacy in the classroom. Again, I understand social media and the internet are very toxic places, but the issue is not what people are accessing so much. The issue is who's essentially controlling the internet and for what purposes. And right now, it's honestly big tech companies like Google, like Facebook, like Meta, all these companies. But instead of targeting them, we're going to go after the most vulnerable in our society. Again, classic Donald Trump reactionary moral crisis, type stuff that right wingers all around the world fucking do. So we have to stand up and fight against this, solidarity with the people in Greece and France and Spain, right? So the BBC had an article on, I guess the New York Times did a expose piece on, and apparently it's not the first one, but there's this guy, this computer science, this crypto advocate, activist in Britain. His name is Adam Back, and like BACK, like you're back, Adam Back. There is New York Times did another expose about like saying Adam Back is supposedly the founder of Bitcoin. For the 100th time, he has denied this allegation. This isn't the first time. This is just the most recent time. Who knows? I mean, a lot of the evidence I saw is pretty circumstantial on like mapping the activities of this Bitcoin person. And I forget it's a pseudonym. Anyway, there's a pseudonym of this person that put out this letter to the internet that basically said, hey, I created Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is the future. Again, like no one has been identified or come out to say, yeah, this was me. But a lot of people are speculating it's this Adam Back character. It may or may not be. Adam Back has said that, yes, he was very involved with the launching of Bitcoin, but he wasn't the actual like person in question. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is just like the whole thing of like, who is QAnon? They're interesting mysteries, but like, doesn't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things. To me, it really doesn't. I mean, I would much rather be spending my energy on like how are we going to address this new technology? How are we going to regulate it? But anyway, you know, that was kind of a little interesting thing. Lufthansa, the big German airline, a bunch of their workers, the like stewardesses and stuff, people that work in the cabin, like the inner parts of the plane, went on a 1-day strike. Good for them. Again, workers of the world unite. Solidarity. So yeah. Just another pro-labor movement that we can support and get behind. That was according to Reuters. Also, according to Reuters, this is like the second day of a major protest in Ireland over fuel prices. Again, Ireland, not in the Middle East, but they're very clearly affected by this fucking stupid war that Trump started in Iran. It hurts everybody, Here's another one. Speaking of right-wing wackos in Europe, the UK Reform Party, which is the ultra right-wing, like essentially like Nazi party of the UK, is threatening to revoke visas from immigrants coming from certain countries that are seeking reparations. Oh my God. Like, the US, we learned this directly from Britain, directly from UK. God forbid anybody asks for some justice for all the fucking shit, war crimes and slavery and everything else that was committed to them by these colonial powers. God forbid anybody even mentions that. They shouldn't be allowed in our our white special country or whatever the fuck. Good news is UK reform within Britain does not have very many seats right now, but that still doesn't mean they do still have a little power in Parliament. And I guess freedom of speech, right? Thank God they're not actually writing most of the policies in Britain right now. TikTok is going to build a second billion-euro data center in Finland. Yeah, so this is great. More data centers, more resources taken up for this, more environmental disaster, more displaced people. So, I mean, I don't know. I imagine people in Finland are not too happy with this. Again, solidarity, these tech companies are going to try to build these massive data centers anywhere in the world. And we just need the solidarity, global solidarity against this. So here's another one. This wasn't a shocker at all. But the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has released some research that basically says that this increase in military spending that we're seeing across Europe does not bring lasting growth. It's very temporary. I talk about this all the time. We know this in the US. Like, these bomb makers will set up their little plant. They'll hire a bunch of people. They'll lower their wages, and then they'll move on. So again, it's this whole farce of like, oh, how great, capitalism and stuff like that, bringing people jobs. Sure, maybe for like a year, but then what? Oh, sorry, you're out of luck. You became too fucking expensive, So anyway, okay, so we have that was according to the Financial Times. Another Financial Times story: Russia. I don't know if this was MI6 or what, but UK security authorities have figured out and tracked that the Russian military has been able to hack like several internet routers in the UK and is redirecting that traffic. So now we know for sure, like, and this is just one of many ways Russia like monitors foreign adversary internet traffic. So yeah, again, it was just like, okay, that's like not too surprising, but again, it goes to why like internet hygiene, online hygiene and safety is so important. Have passwords, have two-factor identification, join, get a VPN, join places like Proton, find decentralized parts of the internet where it's harder for them to monitor you. Tor browser is another good thing to use. DuckDuckGo, all of that stuff. Honestly, we all need to be using it. Whether you're like, quote unquote, committing crimes or whatever. Like we are seeing now in real time how damn easy it is a way for countries, for states, for provinces to take away your rights online. You say something that little Donnie doesn't like, the FEC comes after you. They try to, take away your free speech. Free speech is free speech. I don't give a fuck if it's in real life, if it's on the internet, So yeah, internet safety. And it also goes like to show that all these stupid internet restrictions, all these child safety things, like, don't protect you from being spied on by Russia and other countries. So again, the moral panic is around the people are concerned with like the wrong things when it comes to online. Like the fear is real, right? Like we all know social media and the internet are becoming more and more toxic, but it's not for the reasons that that a lot of these politicians and people in power are saying is what's causing it. It's something different. Hungary is having their national elections on Sunday, so we'll keep track of that. I'll have results on Monday. See if Orban retains control. Like, hope to God not. He's, Putin lover, Trump lover, just complete fascist wacko. So hopefully he loses, but we'll see. I know I've talked about this, but the leader of the opposition party in Taiwan is seeking reconciliation with China. They're on like a peace mission to China, so we'll see. I mean, I'm always pro any peace talk, so that continues. Here in the Americas, there's been another Conservative Party PM in the Canadian Parliament that defects to Labour. So Mike Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, is again closer to gaining majority. Him and his party are one seat closer to to getting majority control of the government there. That's according to Reuters, so we'll see what happens. Also, there's other elections happening on Sunday. So not only Hungary, but Peru national elections are happening Sunday. There's like 35 presidential candidates, which is just insane. There's obviously going to be runoff elections, but they're national elections for president, for parliament, for all that. So. Okay, let's go to the U.S. There were some special elections yesterday. One of them was in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. Remember, she is out. She resigned. The Republican Clayton Fuller won that district. No surprise. Georgia's 14th congressional district in northern Georgia is like consistently the most conservative, red-leaning district in the state. But it is noteworthy because Clayton Fuller only won by 11 percentage points, right? He had like 55% or 56%. And the Democrat had like 44, 45. He was the retired brigadier general who ran again. This is significant because when last election, Trump won that district by 35 points. Like, it wasn't even close. You know, he had 80 something. And Kamala had like, you know, what was it, 40 something? I mean, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't close. So he won by like 39 points, 40 points, something like that. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene in that same election won that district by like 29, 30 points. But now Clayton Fuller only won it by 11. So, like, if this is the most conservative district in Georgia, that's a huge swing. That means Republicans have lost a lot of ground. Yes, their candidate ended up winning, but by narrower and narrower margins. This, again, is just another sign that Republicans are probably going to get shellacked or not do very well in the upcoming midterms. But again, we'll see. Like, one election doesn't necessarily mean that this will for sure happen, but it adds to this trend of worrying signs for Republicans when it comes to the upcoming midterm elections. Here's another one talking about empire, befriending empires. So King Charles addresses Congress on April 28th. According to Reuters, he's going to speak to a joint session of Congress. It's supposed to be around, centered on the 250th anniversary of America. It's also probably going to be a lot of sucking up to Trump. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think, you know, I think it's pretty funny, especially considering America being 250 years old, that the King of England is coming to speak to Congress, right? It wasn't that long ago that they were trying, you know, pitchfork and torches the King of England. But, you know, it's all good. You know, empire respects empire, and, you know, those animosities didn't last long, as we know, in American history. You know, now they just help each other whenever they can, you know, to promote white supremacy, European supremacy around the world. Anyway, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes of that. White House news: Pam Bondi, now that she's not the Attorney General, has declined to testify at this House of Representative Epstein panel. You know, because she's not the Attorney General anymore. Like, honestly, like, I don't give a fuck. She probably has a ton of information. But yeah, we'll see. She probably won't, but I mean, we'll see. I honestly think she should, because I fully believe bring all the bastards in. I don't care if you weren't necessarily directly related to Epstein. They all need to be investigated. They all need to end up, you know, in court, honestly. So yeah, there was that. Oh, another great one. This doesn't shock me at all. This was from Reuters. ICE arrests over 800 travelers at airports. And, you know, pretty much all these arrests were because TSA said something to ICE. And, you know, like, nowhere is fucking safe in America. And it doesn't matter who the fuck you are. ICE, this terrorist force within our country, we have to keep standing up. We have to keep saying no. You know, your little legal rights cards I talked about, that's why you carry those around, because it doesn't matter where you fucking are in this country. ICE will harass you, you know, detain you. You know, we all know, it's unacceptable. We have to keep organizing. We have to keep tracking ICE, doing all this. We have to keep putting out information like know your rights, protect people, you know, follow the ACLU, follow these different groups, help out where you can. Protect your neighbors, honestly, protect your friends and neighbors. So this has kind of been back and forth the past couple of months. But Trump and Xi are supposed to meet in May. It's in Paris, maybe. I may be wrong, but anyway, this has gone back and forth on whether they'll meet, whether they won't. Trump being a little baby is all sad. Is all upset with Xi because Xi is apparently helping Iran with their nuclear project. Who knows? Again, Trump is so fickle. Who the fuck knows? So, but they're supposed to meet in May. We'll see if that happens. Here's another one. Speaking of feckless leadership, the chair of the SEC, which is SEC is the Security and Exchange Commission. They're the ones that are supposed to regulate the stock market and whatnot. Yet again, they're publicly advocating their duties. The SEC chair says that we shouldn't be imposing corporate regulation. We should leave that up to the states. Isn't it funny how all this regulation and being tough on crime and stuff is only applicable when it comes to Black and brown people and vulnerable people. Yet when it comes to the people with real power in our society, corporations and rich people, the government just is just oh, we can't do anything. Right, as if we didn't know. I mean, it's all a grift. It's all kleptocracy. It's all an oligarchy. We know this. This is why we have to organize and push our states, push the federal government to actually regulate the real people in society with all the power. And this reminds me of the, I forget if I talked about it before, but the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, basically kind of like more or less the HR department of the White House, of the executive branch. They put out their budget proposal. Again, realize this is just a proposal from the White House. Now Congress has to debate it and whatnot. But anyway, in this budget, so this budget, 2027 budget, OMB is cutting $2 trillion from trillion with a T from the federal budget from various places like the SEC in different places, that actually try to regulate businesses, that try to regulate and protect the environment, that send out welfare dollars and all that stuff. No, we're going to do that and continue to hurt vulnerable people in order to give 1.5 trillion of that. So 3/4 of that to, building more bombs so we can bomb more fucking people, and, giving more money to ICE so we can continue to terrorize American citizens. Again, it's the same old song and dance. But again, this is why solidarity and advocacy and pushing for socialism is so key at every level, local, state, and national. The ketamine queen, who was found guilty of giving Matthew Perry the ketamine that he OD'd on. This was a few years ago. Matthew Perry died from an OD, Matthew Perry from Friends and a bunch of other stuff. So this person got sentenced to 15 years in prison. That's from the AP. So some state news. The other big special election that was happening last night, besides the Georgia congressional 14th, was a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court that was open. The Democrat, it's technically nonpartisan, but the more progressive candidate ended up winning. That was according to The Guardian. So that just further solidifies kind of the leftist progressive majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Again, the big issue was abortion. Again, Republicans being crying babies that, oh, we can't handle the consequences of our actions of passing Dodd, this horrible overturning of Roe v. Wade. Yeah, the repercussions continue and we got to keep it up. Fuck what any of those people are saying, fuck what the Supreme Court wants to do. We have to continue to fight against it. We're fucking Americans. We have rights. We have bodily autonomy. I don't care if you're a woman or not. We all have right to health care. So anyway, good for the people of Wisconsin. Here's another good one. A judge, I believe a federal circuit judge, blocks Louisiana's challenge to the FDA approval of abortion pills. Again, abortion pills were cleared by the FDA, are very common in use all the time. Doctors prescribe them. Again, this is the new thing, these ridiculous, anti-abortion people are like, they essentially hate medicine. They hate medicine. They hate, healthcare, honestly, especially when it comes to reproductive healthcare. They think they know better than you and your doctor. Just more Christian nationalist fascism, essentially. But thank God the judge steps in and says, Louisiana, you cannot challenge the FDA on approving these abortion pills that they approved decades ago. So yeah, good. This is why the judicial system and courts matter, right? So that was according to Reuters. Another kind of court-related news. I reported on this a couple of days ago, last week, that there's a Republican candidate that's running for governor in the governor primary in California. That is, of course, a completely deranged MAGA Trump sycophant who was holding all these ballots from the last election from being counted. Well, thank God the California Supreme Court stepped in, said, no, county sheriff, elected officials, you can't just fucking hold on to ballots. You can't take away people's rights to vote. So thank God. We'll keep an eye on that one. That was according to the AP. Also, according to the AP, there's another teenager running for the Vermont governor's office. So, I mean, interesting. Anyway, so two teenagers now. So I know I mentioned this yesterday, but the University of Wisconsin, the president of that whole system was officially fired by the Board of Regents. So yeah, University of Wisconsin system is a mess right now. Not that other states aren't much better, honestly. But we'll see what happens. Again, this is just further attack on academics and education in this country because fascist politicians and corporate leaders can't stand having an educated populace, because an educated populace knows that they're being screwed over. They know that the systems are rigged against them. They're more likely to protest. They're more likely to strike. So of course we have to attack the vulnerable. We can't have children learning about the trans, and we can't have children learning about unions, and it's all same part of the same system. And we have to continually advocate for. This is why creating reading groups is so important, like socialist reading groups. Why advocacy groups are so important. Why bring your communities together, learn about this shit, talk about this shit, advocate, hit the streets, protect your neighbors, fight these corporations, fight these people, the people that actually have power who are trying to exploit you, the Epstein class, So anyway, I thought this was kind of cool. So the town of Anchorage is starting a homeless program that links tiny homes and addiction treatment, which is this is the way to do it. You want to solve fucking homelessness in this country? you start programs like these that have a track record of working all over the country. But again, like, oh, we can't do this because, like, again, like, right, the true enemy in people's minds are the most vulnerable. But anyway, so I guess Anchorage has this thing where they're, instead of putting these homeless people in apartments, they're putting them in like tiny houses. We all know that tiny houses, sometimes they're like cargo containers turned into houses, whatnot. So they're putting homeless people in there. So at least it's like some type of housing outside of the elements. And then they're also offering addiction treatment, which, like, go. We need more of this. We need these type of programs, homeless programs in every city in our country, honestly, because there's no reason we should have homelessness. There's no reason we should have poverty in this country. We're, like, we should be so ashamed, honestly, as the richest country in the world, why we still have fucking homelessness, why we still have fucking poverty. It's not that we don't have the resources, honestly. It's because the greedy capitalist class, is more concerned about making more money, about requiring more resources, and about screwing more people over. There's a saying, and it's so true. All of us are only one major catastrophe away from homelessness. And it's fucking true. It's fucking true. Just look at the percentage of how many, like, veterans are homeless people. Again, like, oh, we really care about the troops. Yeah. You serve, you get your fucking leg blown off, and then you come back to the States. They, medical discharge. What do you have? You have nothing. It's just so wild. Like, a lot of homeless people are veterans, always have been veterans, which is just absolutely ridiculous. If we're going to ask people to, put their bodies on the line, why the fuck aren't we giving them, excellent health care, type of thing? It's just mind boggling, honestly. So yeah, anyway, long story short, good for Anchorage. Keep it up. More cities need to be doing these types of programs. And I think more cities are, like, I think people around the country, are waking up. They know this. They know this is unacceptable. No human being, especially in the richest country in the world, should have to live in these conditions. And there are actual solutions, like data-proven solutions on how to fix this. It's just that we lack the political will. But I think, things are slowly changing. This is why you need to keep advocating, for your friends, your neighbors, no matter what their citizenship status, no matter what their housing status. All lives matter, right? Not in like the racist way, but yeah, everybody matters. Everybody has rights, So I had talked about a couple of weeks ago that Trump was going on about how the biggest refinery in the world, biggest refinery in U.S. history, is opening in Texas, something like $300 billion refinery. Well, turns out that may not actually be $300 billion. It may be more like 30 million. And there's real issues if this will even happen or not. I hope it doesn't. But again, like this, one more fucking reason, like, people are so goddamn naive in this country about, like, oh, businesses will fix everything. Yeah, bullshit. They don't. They ruin the environment. They make people poor, Yeah. So again, this wasn't a shocker to me at all. This was, according to the Financial Times. Oh, here's another funny one. So this was an article I read on Fox News. So the Minnesota high school softball season now is under maybe canceled. Who knows what happened? What will happen? But it's all because of fucking Lil Donnie and his little whiny whine about the trans are in the sports. Anyway, so basically what happened, there's this Minnesota high school. They have God forbid, one of their pictures is transgender. We can't have that, just blatant misogyny, blatant homophobia, blatant controlling of women's bodies, of course, Trump, this is his issue. Fucking idiot. Like, there's so many other issues. Again, this is just, attacking the vulnerable for political points, essentially. So anyway, Trump's DOJ was like suing this school now because they had the audacity to allow a high school athlete compete in high school athletics. And now this whole case jeopardizes now the potential for, will potentially ruin the, the season for every other high school softball player in Minnesota. So once again, Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about anybody. He loves, obviously ruining children's lives, as we literally see here. So again, it was funny. There's a report on Fox News, but, what we talked about yesterday, every accusation is a confession. Mm-hmm. Just look at fucking Fox News. Anyway. Cisco, so one of the largest, I don't know if it's the largest, but one of the largest food production companies in the world. Cisco, often a lot of restaurants and stuff and grocery stores even partner with Cisco to get all their wholesale products that they then, use and sell to you. So Cisco, this giant company, one of the largest in the world, is trying to buy Jetra Restaurant Depot, which is just basically, as the name sounds, it's this huge warehouse of all these different foods and stuff. So I love jalapeno poppers from Arby's. So like all those jalapeno poppers that different restaurants use, it comes from the same place. It comes from this Restaurant Depot. So of course, Cisco, trying to further expand their monopoly, is trying to buy this Restaurant Depot. Again, this is just going to hurt consumers. This is going to raise prices for your food at restaurants and grocery stores because the supply chain will be further controlled. Again, we've talked about how fucked up and problematic, monopolies are, how it's not true capitalism. It's corrupt capitalism only for the richest people. So anyway, that was announced, and this was according to Forbes. It still has to be approved by the federal government, but we know as the federal government goes, they love monopolies. They love screwing over Americans, so much for like Trump helping the working class. Every action Trump has taken has hurt the working class. Like, let's just be honest. And I think, Americans know this and are done with it, But again, this is why we need to be building grassroots support system, mutual aid, stuff like that, because Trump doesn't give a fuck. The federal government obviously doesn't give a fuck. A lot of state governments don't care. Local governments, we need to be advocating on all these levels, saying, no, this is ridiculous. We don't want fucking giant monopolies coming into our community and completely devastating and impoverishing us. Anyway, so. So let's see. Okay. We'll hit on that in a bit. Okay, Cisco. So that's according to Forbes. Related, we have this thing, and this is wild. Like, look it up. I think a lot of people realize this already, but not fully aware of the extent of how far it reaches. Just look up surveillance pricing. Just Google it. So I saw a wonderful little short documentary by More Perfect Union in collaboration with Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports, the nonpartisan group that advocates for consumers. Did this fantastic piece on surveillance pricing. Basically, surveillance pricing is if you go on Instagram or you go into certain stores that have the electronic price tags. You've seen this before, that that it doesn't matter. Like, you and me may go into the same store here in Chapel Hill on the same day at the same time and still pay two different prices for the same goddamn product. How do we get away with this? Well, one, consumers aren't talking to each other about the prices they're paying, or not often. I mean, sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't. But it's because of businesses basically turning over pricing to AI, right? Like, all these membership programs you can sign up for, and I'll admit, I'm a Food Line member, stuff like that. How do you think you get all those discounts? They do it by buying your data and selling it, essentially is what it is. And then they also use that data to create prices that are just for you based on past spending habits, based on, past things you've bought. So super shady, super, just absolute greed. They do it for pure profits. And then you turn around and same thing on Instagram. Like if you and me went on Instagram right now, tried to order something from the same exact store here in Chapel Hill, same exact product, most likely we will pay two different prices. It's all because of the surveillance pricing. They want your data. Data is king now. This is why it's so important to protect your data. This is why people need to realize this, right? When you sign up for these grocery store memberships or Instagram memberships, stuff like that, or not Instagram, sorry, Instacart, you get lower prices, which don't last that long. Like that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, the reason you get those prices are because you're giving your data to these corporations. So they're going to sell it. They're going to use it to try to price gouge you as much as possible. So it's disgusting. We need regulation around it. We obviously know the federal government isn't going to do shit about it under Trump. So you need to be pressuring your states. You need to be pressuring your state attorney generals to start looking into this. And again, it's not just Instacart. It's like just about every fucking business now, every grocery store. And it's only going to get worse, right? Because Cisco is going to have a fucking monopoly on every product the grocery store can sell. So Cisco is going to charge whatever they want. Of course, the grocery stores have to make their profits, right? Yeah, it's all, it's all capitalism, private industry. This is why people, are poor. We get fucked over wherever possible, just for greed. And, people in this space, say, oh, we can't have government run grocery stores. We can't have public funding in grocery stores. One, that's absolute bullshit. There's public grocery stores in New York City. There's public grocery stores in Chicago, even small little towns in Kansas where it's like literally there are no grocery stores. We call them food deserts because it's not profitable, right? Because people aren't making money. So therefore, like people in this town don't get to eat, basically. How fucked up and cruel is that? This is what capitalism is. It's a fucked up, cruel system, and we need to continue to fight against it. So, but anyway, these pro-business people, these pro-private market people will be like, oh, we can't turn grocery stores public. That's not sustainable. Bullshit. Have you ever been to a fucking military base? Military bases have been doing this for years. It's called the PX. Depends which branch you're in, which is the post exchange or base exchange. Basically, it's like a commissary and market all kind of put into one. Yeah, you know how many veterans and how many soldiers, how much money they fucking save every year, them and their families, from not going to fucking local grocery stores and instead buying all their goods through the PX, through buying all their goods through the commissary on base. We do this. This is sustainable. We know how fucking big and how like the U.S. military is all over the world. So anybody that says, oh, this can't be done, bull fucking shit. The military does it. Mamdani's doing it in New York City. Chicago has been doing it. Like I said, fuck, even small towns in Kansas are doing this. So again, it's just more, fear mongering by the capitalists to keep power by the rich. So we see through this, and actually, again, everything they advocate for is actually what are making people poorer, which is it's the capitalists, it's private industry that's driving inflation, making people poor. Bottom line, and we have multiple examples of how this works. These supermarkets are like, oh, we don't do this. Yeah, they technically don't set prices, but they turn it over to fucking AI. And this is another goddamn thing, right? It's not just in grocery stores, but it's in all different sectors. We have businesses that are shirking responsibility by saying, oh, it's not us, it's the computers. Oh, it's not us, it's AI. Bullshit. Who were the people that bought these programs and are implementing them? Again, we talk about how the rich and powerful are the biggest snowflakes. Again, anytime they get criticism, what are they going to do? One, they're going to try to cover it up. Two, if it is exposed, they're going to deny it. Or else if we keep pushing it, then it turns to, oh, we're the enemies, and actually we did nothing wrong. It's all the same song and game. This is why we say the U.S. is the capitalist center of the world, and it's disgusting, and we need to keep fighting against it. The good news is I think people are finally getting it, saying, no, this is ridiculous. This is why we need socialism, right, to fight against it, to more equitably distribute resources. Yeah, basically end of story on that for now, at least. Here's another great one. U.S. automakers, speaking of freaking snowflakes, so U.S. automakers, right, are crying to the EU now. They wrote this letter to the EU basically crying that, saying, being little babies and saying, oh, the EU by enforcing actual emission rules and safety rules will make it impossible for them to sell their jumbo, pickup trucks or whatever. Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, we lose a little money so Europeans can be fucking safer and live in a cleaner fucking environment. Like, if this doesn't turn off U.S. consumers, I don't know what will. Honestly, this whole idea of pickup trucks and everything, it's all a grift. It literally is a grift. Look it up. Trucks. Why do U.S. automakers love trying to sell you trucks? It's because they're big and manly and everything? No. What do all businesses want? They want to make more fucking profits. These trucks are just a grift because they're selling it because they get the highest profit returns on trucks. And the bigger and fancier the truck is, the more profit return the automaker makes. So again, this is literally through marketing and capitalism and stuff like this. This is just further impoverishing people, right? And it's so sad that so many people buy into this so easily. Do your own research. Look at how much automakers and dealerships are making by comparing a truck that's sold versus a car that's sold. It's just outstanding. At least people in Europe understand this grift and are like, no, this is ridiculous. Why would we lower our standards for safety and for our environment just so we can sell more of these big gas guzzling trucks and SUVs? It's just ridiculous. And it's, how backward America is in so many ways. But again, this is why we need to be standing up to this, advocating for renewable energy, advocating for public transportation. That's what it comes down to. This was interesting. This was according to the Financial Times. Oh, that truck one was according to Reuters, but I had also seen it on a couple other news sites. Okay, this is from the Financial Times. Hedge funds posted their biggest losses in a long time during the Iran war. They actually lost more money than they did during the height of the COVID pandemic. So again, right, like Trump fucking screwing over his own base of rich white men. I I don't know it. I find it funny. Yeah, you voted for this, you idiots. Um, Also related, so fossil fuel companies, their stock is down in quarter 1 again due to the Iran war. Oh, that's not a shocker at all. I guess one good thing out of the Iran war is it's showing how terrible fossil fuels are, how unreliable they are, how evil these fossil fuel companies are. So I guess that's kind of good. Jamie Dimon, who I disagree with on like just about everything. He is the head of JP Morgan, which is a ginormous bank, basically. So he came out, and this was a while ago, but he was saying to JP Morgan shareholders that he thinks that the current predictions on the losses that private equity is going to collect over the next year or so are actually underestimated. I agree. Again, I disagree with Jamie Dimon on a lot of things. He's just another rich capitalist, filthy capitalist pig, as they say. But he is very knowledgeable in the market, and I think he's spot on. Again, one more major financial titan coming out and saying private equity is a scam. It's a speculation. People are going to lose their shirt. And unfortunately, like I keep saying, this is ultimately these whiny babies are going to turn to us, the American taxpayers, again, just like they did in the financial crisis of 2008, just like they did in the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s. We've seen this song and dance so many times. Why not advocate against it now and point out how destructive it is and how Wall Street and this rampant speculation hurts us all, type of thing. But, anyway. So Virgin Galactic, the Richard Branson company, one of his main companies, Virgin Galactic is restarting their space travel. So they have this thing where you can, basically buy a seat on a rocket. It blasts you up. I don't even know if you may go around orbit like once and then come back. Very like novelty thing, right? So apparently they stopped doing that. They took a break from doing that. Well, they're putting tickets. They're selling tickets again, and it's only $750,000 for one ticket. So, right. These rich white people will try to grift you on everything. That's according to Fox News. And our last one here. Speaking of local government, a positive local government update. So another kind of significant vote that happened yesterday in Wisconsin. There's a suburb in Milwaukee that passes an ordinance to require data centers to receive voter approval. Good. Honestly, every fucking town should be doing this. These data centers are toxic to people, to the environment. Good for them. Direct democracy and work, baby. We need more of this. We need to have political power. We, the people, need to have more political power over these companies. And this is one way to do it. So good for the people in Milwaukee. Well, again, we need to be doing this in every town. You need to be advocating for this in your own town, in your own, local county boards, your city councils, all that good stuff. So, and that was according to MSN, formerly MSNBC. So, okay, that's it for the news. Our call to action is keep going. The American empire is very clearly collapsing. Trump's a fucking idiot. He's making it collapse even faster. This is why, again, I'll say it again. This is why we need to be organizing now. We need to be, doing mutual aid. We need to be building up socialist and sustainable structures for when this finally does fully collapse. We need something in its place that's more fair, that's more equitable, that ensures everyone's rights, that protects everybody, especially the most vulnerable, like trans kids, like kids that are just trying to fucking play softball in the state of Minnesota. So anyway, that's it for now. I will see you tomorrow. It'll probably be about this time. I don't know, some point tomorrow. I will see you then. Peace.